Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another Beach Boys album ranking video. Today we're up to number 7 out of 30, so real fucking close. Last video, number 8, we checked on Smiley Smile from 1967. And for me, that is just one of the band's all-time classic records. At the time, it was a huge controversy because of what happened with the collapse of Smile, but now that it's been over 50 years since the release of that record and the whole aura and myth around Smile, I think that record can stand alone as its own unique thing and one of the best records that the Beach Boys ever made. And today, for number 7 out of 30, the album we're looking at today is no different, a complete standalone release. And while at the time might have been viewed as inconsequential by the general public, has really come about to be looked at as one of the band's absolute best efforts. And I love it so much. So without any further ado, released on June 24th, 1968. It's the band's 14th studio album, Friends. Now, this is a fucking amazing record. Now, a lot of people who know this record will completely agree with me and say that objectively this is up there with the band's best. People who have not known it, they might be like, what is this record? Like, I've never seen this before. And let me just tell you, this is one fucking phenomenal record. So, as I said, the album was released on June 24th, 1968. But to get into the backstory a little bit more, we kind of have to start with basically the end of 67. So the band put out Smiley Smile and Wild Honey after the collapse of Smile, and those albums, while great, and I just talked about both of them, I love both, but while great albums, they were really not what the general public and the music world wanted, especially after Pet Sounds, and especially knowing or hearing about Smile. So while they're great records, they were seen as disappointments. But really, they're more of a way for the band, and specifically Brian, to calm down and just have fun, especially after the years of constant touring and writing new material, and just stress that had been surrounding the band forever, and mainly Brian. Brian was carrying the burden. So those two records were really Brian's way of just having fun and being like, you know what, I don't need to take all this shit super seriously. He still wrote amazing music on those two records, but he was just having a freer time. He was feeling like a freer person with less stress on him and from the entire music industry to produce great music. While they're great albums, as I said, they really didn't live up to the hype that Smile delivered. But late 67 and early 68, he went back in the studio. Brian did, but along with the rest of the guys, to start writing more music. And what came out was this album, Friends, as I said, released on July 24th, 1968. So this is one record that, looking back on it, it just stands alone in such a beautiful way within their discography. The sound it carries is so fucking amazing and just unique and amazing. And they took when you look at this album compared to the rest of the music scene in 1968, it's just crazy how different and almost out of its time it was. Not even ahead of its time, because they really, not even the Beach Boys, but pretty much nobody has ever come back to what this record did at the time. And you got to think, with all the psychedelic music going around and just hard rock and the way popular music was going at the time, this record is just completely different, and it's like in its own transcendental world. And I'll get to that whole transcendental thing in a bit. But yeah, so the first thing I guess to say is the album cover and just the image of the album. So it was released on Capitol Records, and it was actually the band's worst charting album up until that point. While Smiley Smile and Wild Honey didn't do particularly good compared to their records before that, this one did absolutely terribly, peaking at number 126 on the charts, which was abysmal. 126 for anybody really isn't even... 126 for any band really isn't that great. I guess if it's your debut or something, it's not a bad way for the chart, but for the Beach Boys, 126 on the charts, that's terrible. So there's a good reason, not a good reason, but for a lot of people who don't know this record, there's the reason why they don't. It's because it just didn't really sell that well. It was their worst selling record at that point. It was their worst charting record, which is really sad, but mainly just with the cover. I don't know who designed it, but I fucking love it. This is one of my absolute favorite Beach Boys album covers. This is the original 68 stereo, and dude, just the colors. You have the guys doing the artwork, Brian, Al, Bruce, Carl, Mike, Dennis. It was sometimes hard for me to figure out Brian and Carl on the cover, but I sometimes just look at this and just the colors, the red, green, blue, just it's so bright, and As I said, at the time in 1968, music was in such revolutionary a revolutionary period for music where everything was changing and bands were getting rougher and heavier and more gritty and more raw almost. And that's when you started seeing CCR and Cream and the Doors and even the Beatles starting to get more just basic with things, which actually the Beach Boys pioneered with Wild Honey the year before. But anyway, so you see this music just getting heavier and more intense as the 60s pass. But Friends is a completely different story, and it shows on the album cover. It is a blissful, calm, it's like a serenade sort of an album. It's just beautiful. And the back reflects that too. I love this back cover. Just a nice, calm shot of the ocean waves with the sun in the background. It's such a different look for 68, especially because that was probably the most politically charged year of the entire decade. But this album to me feels like a retreat from all of that. And at the time, for the people who listen to this, if you were around when this album came out and you got it, if you have any personal experiences getting this album, let me know, because I'd love to hear if this was kind of like just an escape from reality at the time. So yeah, so as I said, backstory, I kind of got interrupted for a second, but after they finished Smiley Smile and Wild Honey, Mike actually went to India in late 67, early 68 with the Beatles. And he met the Maharishi, and it was kind of like a whole uplifting kind of thing. And I think Al met him too at some point. The rest of the guys did too. I think it was Alan, the group met him, and then Al and Dennis were like, hey Mike, you gotta meet this dude. So Mike was really hooked on the Maharishi, like all in transcendental meditation and all that. So basically around the time the recording sessions for Friends, by the time they started, most of the band had learned and been in the presence of Maharishi and were very infatuated and like super impressed by his whole TM sort of thing, like the Beatles were, And during the whole recording sessions, you could definitely hear the influence of the more calmer lifestyle that Mike had seen in India. So so that's the recording sessions. I think really happened from late 67, early 68, because this album is short and was recorded quickly. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about that. So before this album came out, which was in July, it was preceded by a single, the title track, Friends, with the B-side, Little Bird. And that one charted, I think, like number 40, I think, something like that. So not amazing at all, but it wasn't terrible. It wasn't a terrible charting single. I don't think Little Bird charted at all. If it did, you can correct me. But I'll get to what I think about those tracks. But yeah, so, you have the band meeting the Maharishi, learning about transcendental meditation and, that lifestyle and everything, and then releasing a single before the album. And then that's basically most of the backstory you have to cover about this one. So, I guess I'm just going to get in the track list real quick. So, as I said, the single was the title track, which is actually not the first song, but the first song, which I'll get to right now, just start off the record. Anyway, yeah, so Tracklist. So the album opens up with a song called Meant For You, written by Brian Wilson and Mike Love. So this one's really cool. So it's a super, super fucking short song, 38 seconds long exactly. It's just a nice, short, sweet little thing. Mike comes in on the vocal at the beginning, and then the harmonies come in. And it's just super short and calm, but the second you hear it, you instantly know what the record's gonna sound like. You're like, this is so calm and mellow. And as I said, for a musical environment of rising volumes basically at the time, this album is a completely stark contrast from that. And Meant For You is no different. It's just a nice, peaceful, short little thing. And following that is what I was trying to say, is the title track of this single, the lead-off song of the album, Friends. Now, this one was written by pretty much most of the band, Brian, Carl, Dennis, and Al. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure Brian, I don't know how much the other guys collaborated on it, but if anything was like vocal contributions, Brian, I'm pretty sure, wrote the melody and the music and everything. But basically, it was the majority of the group wrote it together, and man, this is such a fucking awesome song. Before I heard this album, I had never heard the song. Maybe in the late 60s, it was on the radio for a little bit, so if you have history with the song, let me know what you think about it. But I fucking love it. It's one of my favorites on the record, probably my second favorite on the record after another song I'll get to later. But Friends is just such a fucking peaceful, blissful song. It's a waltz, so it's a lot more old-timey influence in it. It's not just straight up pop like a lot of the other Beach Boys stuff. It's much different, and Carl sings the lead, but everything else is just fucking beautiful. And here's what I'll give Friends. Here's what I'll give it. So, out of all of the Beach Boys records that ever came out, for me, Friends has the best harmonies on any Beach Boys record, bar none. Pet Sounds, Smile, maybe there is more complex harmonies on there, but in terms of the blend and the sound, Friends is the apex of the Beach Boys harmonies. And the fucking bridge on the title track on here is just absolutely harmonically perfect. It is one of the most gorgeous things I've ever heard, and along with the production, Wild Honey, or Smiley Smile, Wild Honey, and Friends are considered like the band's 3 lo-fi albums, but to me, Friends doesn't really fit those at all. I can see for Smiley Smile, Wild Honey, they're definitely quieter, more scarce in terms of instrumentation, but Friends I don't think is lo-fi whatsoever. It is a completely, pop-filled, amazing pop record filled with a bunch of instruments. And while it isn't as orchestrated or dense as something like Pet Sounds or Smile, it still has lots of sounds going on. So to me, it doesn't fit the lo-fi title, but the production and the harmonies and everything is so fucking clean and crisp and clear, and it just sounds so great. And even on this original pressing, it sounds good. So Friends, the title track, as I said, Carl's vocal is amazing, but the harmonies themselves, just listen to it. The whole sound is one of the most peaceful and calming things I've ever heard, and all the songs in here are so short, but it just works so well. And Friends leads into the next song, Wake the World. This was written by Brian and Al. A really short song, 1.5 minutes, but man, it's so fucking beautiful. It's just saying, wake the world. It's the morning time, just wake everybody up, And it's so pretty. And when I saw Brian and Al back in August, they played this song, and it blew my mind, because I was like, wow, they're really going back to a deep cut from an album that barely sold. But that being said, it's still a beautiful fucking track, and to me, this album's absolutely perfect, and I think it's every bit as good as something like Pet Sounds. The only reason it isn't higher is just because it's just super short, and I think they have other things I like more than Friends, but as a complete whole, it's definitely like one of the most cohesive. So I'll get to my whole consensus and recap at the end, but yeah, Wake the World, fucking amazing. Brian and Al have some great vocals on there along with the rest of the guys. Followed by a song written by all of them, actually, Brian, Dennis, Carl, Mike, and Al. So it was a completely group effort called Be Here in the Morning. Lead is Al, actually. He does a really cool fucking lead on here. I really love this one. The ukulele at the beginning, and then just the whole track, the percussion, the drums, everything. It comes together so well, and just the vocal harmonies, man, are so good, along with the rest of the instrumentation, and the whole vibe is great. And I don't know if they use any effects on the vocals, but the way Al sings is so unusual, but it works so well, and everything is just so crystal clear and spot on, and it's just like uplifting and peaceful, and it isn't like a deep kind of thing, it isn't like I Just Wasn't Made for These Times on Pet Sounds. It's not like something like crazy deep like that, or like Cabinessence or something. It's just a nice, simple song, but it really resonates with you because it's just beautiful. Followed up by another nice song. This was written by Brian, Dennis, Al, and then 2 other people, S. Korthoff and Jay Parks. So I'm pretty sure S. Korthoff, I don't know his first name, but I'm pretty sure that was the Wilson brothers' uncle in some sort of way, and then I don't know who Jay Parks is, but that's just a fun fact. But When a Man Needs a Woman is a really cool song. It's about, just having a kid, because at this time, actually, Brian was having a kid with his wife Marilyn, and at the time they actually didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl. So in the song they're singing about a boy, baby boy, but it actually turned out to be Carney Wilson, a girl, his first daughter. But I'm pretty sure Marilyn was pregnant at the time when this album was released. So it's very interesting. It kind of gives you a glimpse into not only the band's history, but their personal lives too. So yes, anyway, When a Man Needs a Woman, really pretty song. I really like this one. I pretty much have to say the same thing about it as the other songs. It's just peaceful and beautiful and written wonderfully, and the vibe is just awesome. So to me, definitely a great song. Leads into an sort of instrumental, ends off side 1 called Passing By, written just by Brian. This one is really fucking awesome. I love this one. So it's basically just a simple, well, not super simple, but mostly pretty simple instrumental track with some, backing vocal harmonies, but no lead vocals or lyrics or anything. And it's actually funny enough, like the second longest song on side one besides the title track, and for an instrumental, that's kind of funny. But actually, though, it's a fucking amazing, amazing, peaceful track. When I listen to this album and I listen to that song, I just picture myself in this fucking land of psychedelic shit. Not psychedelic shit, but psychedelic colors and everything, and this sea and whatever. Just something about it. I don't really know how much drugs the guys were doing at the time. I know Brian had experimented with LSD before, but I don't know if during these sessions he was. He was probably taking a break. But yeah, side one ends off with a beautiful song, Passing By. I love it. So yeah, that's side one. Absolutely fucking amazing. Absolutely perfect. Nothing I dislike about it at all. Side two opens up with a song written by Mike and Brian. So I'm pretty sure Mike actually wrote the melody to this song while he was in India with the Beatles, and Brian finished up the music. It's called Untitled the Healer, and this one is, man. So it's a relatively simple song, just about a girl named Untitled likes to heal people. But the star of the show is the vocal harmonies, Mike's vocal. When they're like, Untitled the Healer, that whole just harmony section is fucking gorgeous. So when I say this album has the best harmonies of any Beach Boys album, this is what I'm talking about, and just listen to it if you haven't. And also a fun fact about when Mike was in India, I actually saw Mike and Bruce's Beach Boys in February, and they were talking about it. Mike was talking about it. There was videos on the screens, and there was pictures of Mike and the Beatles together and videos and stuff like that. And it's really interesting to look back because you're like, while the Beatles were writing the White Album, here Mike was writing Untitled the Healer for Friends at the same exact time. Also, the Beatles recorded a song for Mike, who's his birthday while they're in India, and they recorded a song called Happy Birthday Mike Love. So any Beatles fans, go check it out. Look up Happy Birthday Mike Love by the Beatles. So really cool, really fucking cool. And for a guy like Mike who's very controversial, it's very, very interesting to hear that, the Beatles recorded him a birthday song. But you know what? I'm not complaining. It's really fucking cool. So yeah, that's Untitled the Healer, a beautiful fucking song, and I love how it sounds. Followed up by a really cool song. So the next two songs are completely different. Well, not in terms of sound, but in terms of who wrote them. So everything before this was written by Brian with a collaboration from other members of the group. But the next two songs were written by Dennis. So this is actually the first time on any Beach Boys record that Dennis had any songwriting credits. And, besides Denny's drums on Shutdown Volume 2, but that's not really a song. But on here, the first of those two is a B-side to the Friends single called Little Bird. And this one is fucking awesome. So this one was written by Dennis and Stephen Kalinch, who is a collaborator, friend of his. I'm actually pretty sure I've seen him in YouTube comments, so if you're on here, Stephen Kalinch, leave a comment. I'd love that. If you had any part with these songs in a big way, great job. Great songs. Dennis did a great job. So Little Bird, it's just a song about a bird in a tree, but man, it's so fucking good. And I've actually heard stories that Brian was actually the one who arranged the song, wrote it musically. Dennis just had like the melody and the lyrics, and Brian helped out a lot. But being the good dude he was, Brian actually just gave Dennis the writing credits, which is really cool. And actually the bridge for Little Bird is actually taken from, the instrumental for the bridge is taken from Child is the Father of a Man from Smile. So that's really cool. It's like a weird crossover, but either way, Little Bird is such a good track. I love the drum beat on it. I love how it sounds. The harmonies are great. And the whole bridge, Little bird up in a tree. Love that. Love that. You guys probably love when I do these fucking singing examples. Anyway, but I think it's a great song. I fucking love it so much. And definitely one of my top 3 on the album for sure. Followed by another song by Dennis called Be Still, a really short, quiet song. I think Brian was actually the one who played the quiet organ on it. So it's very simple. It's just Dennis's lead and then like an organ sort of thing. But this one's super pretty. For Dennis's first 2 songs on a Beach Boys record, they're absolutely great, and I think he did an amazing job. And even if Brian did help out, it was super cool of him to give Dennis the credits. And for Dennis's first 2 songs, absolutely amazing, and they just as good as the rest of the record in my opinion. But yeah, so absolutely love it. After that comes my absolute favorite song on the entire record. A completely unique, one-off unique, absolute masterpiece. So this was written by Brian, completely Brian. He did the lyrics, he did everything. Called Busy Doing Nothing. This is a bossa nova fucking amazing ass track. So if you listen to this one, if you want to hear anything off of this album, go listen to Busy Doing Nothing. This song is just, it's something else. It's so fucking cool. So Brian sings the lead. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure he does like all. I think there's just Brian the whole time. It's just Brian as the lead vocal the whole time, and then the backing track. As I said, bossa nova feel, very very bossa nova. But my favorite part about the song is the lyrics. It's Brian wrote them, and they're literally directions to his house, wanting to call a friend. It's like it's so personal and so funny, and it's like, oh, this is so cool. Um, I really can't say much more about it because it's such a unique kind of experience, but really just listen to it. Just listen for the lyrics, listen for Brian's voice, the whole backing track. It's fucking awesome. And definitely my favorite song on the record. It wasn't released as a single, but it's become more well known nowadays. But absolutely amazing. Absolutely fucking amazing. I love it so much. So yeah, Busy Doing Nothing, followed up by another instrumental track called Diamond Head. Now, this one I'm pretty sure was actually just more of a jam, like a jam written by some Wrecking Crew musicians. That some of the musicians had part in writing it, Brian had part in writing it. I'm actually really not too sure of the backstory behind this one, but what I could say is, well, first of all, it's the longest song on the record. It's three and a half minutes, and it's the longest song on the album. So it really just tells you how short this album is. It's like 25 minutes long, but Diamond Head is, wow. Dude, this song, for an instrumental, it's one of the coolest fucking Beach Boys songs ever made. It really just sounds like a SpongeBob episode or like a Hawaii, just like a Hawaiian music session, like a studio session in Hawaii. It's crazy with the fucking slide guitars and the ukuleles and all the weird ass instruments. No vocals, and I don't even know if any of the actual Beach Boys play on it, but either way, it's a fucking awesome track and leads into the most weird ass ending and most head scratcher of a song on any Beach Boys record. The final song on the record, Transcendental Meditation, written by Brian, Mike, and Al. Simply about transcendental meditation. And compared to the rest of the record, this one's so much different because, you have such a soft, quiet, very peaceful, smooth sound on the rest, but then transcendental meditation is like fucking loud, blaring horns, loud drum beat, and like just loud vocals. And it's like, what the fuck? And a lot of people don't like how it ends the record, but honestly, it really ends it off on a cool mood. It brings the energy back up for like the last moment, and something about it, Brian's vocal, when he's like, it's cool, because he's just saying, transcendental meditation, do it, man, it's fucking cool. It's awesome. I don't know, man, I love it. And with that that's Friends, that's it. It's a very fucking short album. You have, I think, 6 or 12 tracks on the whole thing. Only one of them's over 3 minutes. Well, 2 of them are over 3 minutes. The rest are like 2 minutes or under. And it's absolutely amazing. And actually, I think this album's production is credited to the Beach Boys. Yeah, so it says produced to the Beach Boys. So actually, I'm pretty sure the last Brian Wilson produced record before this was Pet Sounds. But for Smiley Smile While Honey Friends, it was actually pretty much Brian doing most of the production. It was really when 2020 came out is when Brian kind of stopped. He kind of fell behind, and the other guy started doing things. But for me, this is really, and Brian has gone on saying it, but for me, personally, just listening to these records, this is really a Brian Wilson solo record in a way. Yes, you have Dennis's 2 songs, but Brian helped collaborate with him on them, and the rest of the songs are mainly Brian written. So honestly, I mean, okay, this record's a pure 10 out of 10. There's nothing wrong with it. Parts of me wish I put this higher, and parts of me say this is just as good as Pet Sounds in every way, because it is an absolutely perfect record. There's not a single moment on this thing I dislike. Everything sounds amazing. The harmonies, as I said, in my opinion, are the absolute best on any Beach Boys album, bar none. The cover is amazing. The whole feeling of it is amazing. I can just imagine back in '68 hearing this at a time of just political unrest, social unrest, hearing this peaceful, calming record was awesome. But that being said, it's so short and it's so sweet and simple that it's like, I really would feel bad putting this ahead of a lot of the other records, because the ones I'm putting above this, they're just, I feel more historically important, more to them, and they have a more unique style. Not really more unique style, but more styles incorporated on them. This one is kind of like its own thing, living in its own world. Just such a unique thing. You have swing, waltzes, bossa nova, instrumental tracks with just such a cool vibe. It's such a cool vibe. So this was a shorter review just because it's a shorter album. This review is probably going to end up being longer than the album itself, like most of the reviews are anyway. But I mean, man, that's kind of what I have to say about it. I mean, Brian's writing really shines. Brian has gone on to say this is one of his favorite Beach Boys records. He's included it in his top 10 albums of all time. And he even said it was kind of a solo record for himself because it was really just he like while Smiley Smile and Wild Honey were calm down records from the collapse of Smile as well. This one really just feels like Brian just taking a chill pill. Like, man, I just want to write happy music that I don't really want to worry about anything else. And even the other members have said, like while this album isn't like a Pet Sounds in terms of importance, and it didn't chart anywhere near as good as their previous records, it's still a great album and it exists in its own world. And for that reason, yeah, Friends is one of the best Beach Boys albums for sure. The only reason I have it, at number 7 and not like number 3 or number 4 or something like that is because I simply think they have other records that have more to offer in terms of stylistic sounds and stuff like that. But just objectively as a whole, this is easily one of the most cohesive records the Beach Boys ever made, along with Pet Sounds, Smile, and then a select other few I'll get to. It's just absolutely, from front to back, a perfect musical experience. The production is amazing, the harmonies are amazing. Brian's voice, Mike's voice, Al's voice, Carl's voice, Dennis's voice, they all fucking sing. And Bruce actually wasn't on this record, surprisingly enough. But, all the guys had their own moments on here. They all had a time to shine. And I love this fucking record so much, man. It's just so good. So, that's really all I have to say. I kind of feel like I have more to say, but I don't think I do because Friends really is just an album that you need to listen to understand. Just, at night, put some headphones on, sit down, listen to this album in the dark, and just don't have a worry in this world. This record will just make you feel peaceful and at peace. So that's pretty much it. So Friends, released on July 24th, 1968, the Beach Boys' 13th or 14th record. I think it was actually 14. 10 out of 10, absolute masterpiece. Absolute masterpiece. Cannot speak. But yeah, that's all I have to say. An absolutely phenomenal record. I love it. It's number 7 out of 30. And I'll see you guys in the next 6 reviews. We're almost fucking there. So let me know what you think about Friends in the comments. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.